Well, as promised. Huh? Woo! Wow. Relentless. And but you know, so what I gained from this is that it just peeled back the layers of what was going on, the truth of it all, and the honesty of it. Just not loud enough? Usually I can project. But anyway, thank you, everybody. If you need to make a potty stop, I would recommend it now, and you can come back in any time. We won't hold it against you, but if you pee in your seat, I'm just fine. See, I wear the adult diaper Depends, so I'm ready at all times. Thanks again for coming, and we appreciate that. Also, I just want to remind you that Andy Garcia will be here February 1st, and a really sweet picture. You don't want to miss that. But right now, let's get right to our guest. He first jumped onto the scene in, I think it was 2007, with a little movie called Superbad. Now, he probably has done before that, but this is when I first noticed him, and I thought, who is that guy? I knew Michael Cera from Arrested Development. He was like, no, the guy who's not Michael Cera from Arrested Development, who's that guy? And we soon became very well aware of who that guy is, because from there he did some really incredible movies. I don't know if you also saw Cyrus, which I thought was a fantastic acting job on his part, but The Invention of Lying, and then it went on to, well, he did The Watch, and he did This Is the End that came out this year. Funny stuff, crazy stuff. In 2010, his Oscar-nominated role in Moneyball, which he was phenomenal in. We don't want to waste any more time. We're very lucky to have him in our company, and let's welcome him now. Please say hello to Jonah Hill.
Thank you for that lovely intro, Bryan. Hi. Thanks for staying. I know it wasn't the shortest.
Yeah.
This chair is really.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
I'm gonna stand. Let's just stand. Yeah.
Let's do a little.
Yeah. Or through the. Oh,
just like the movie.
Kurt Cobain. Yeah.
Well, you've been on a wild tour with this. You know, a lot of people realize that when you make a movie and there's all the production entity to it, but then comes a whole nother segment of a related issue, and that's selling your movie, going out on the road, traveling, you know, on infinitum, different places around the world to promote the movie. And I found it to be probably the least popular as far as what, you know, my personal experience. I don't like promoting it as much as I enjoy making movies and things, but how did you find that? Was it, I mean, that's a challenge, isn't it?
Well, it sometimes can feel that way, but for this film in particular, just because of how excited I am to be a part of it and how proud I am of it, and to be in, you know, with Leo and Martin Scorsese and stuff, and that it's...
A little bit louder.
Oh, louder, sorry. Oh, there we go. I said, with this film in particular, it has been a joy to go around and talk about, and because of the people I got to work with in the film and how proud I am to be a part of the movie. But I don't know, this kind of thing is the best, where you get to meet people who just watched it and talk to them about what, you know, what it was like making it.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean you. I didn't mean that.
Yes, he meant that this is such a chore.
No,
that's not what he meant at all. He meant like doing all the interviews and stuff like that.
And the same questions all the time, but this audience will ask you questions you've never heard before.
Exactly, brand new ones.
The first question I have is, I heard that you auditioned for this role, and you're a big movie star now. Did you have to audition for this role? Was it offered to you, or did you?
No, it was not offered to me. Martin Scorsese is my favorite filmmaker, or my favorite artist of any medium, form, or anything. So Goodfellas is the reason I wanted to make movies in the first place. And when Moneyball had come out, and that's where we got to meet at the Golden Globes. My little sister, I was telling you about, she loved Bryan, as did I, and I got nominated for an Oscar, and the first phone call we got after that was from Ellen Lewis, Scorsese's casting director, saying Jonah's at the very bottom of a list with way more prestigious actors to play Donnie Azoff for Scorsese with Leo. And
did they have to say you were at the very bottom? Did they say you're on the list at some degree?
But I like being at the bottom, because then you have to fight your way to get what you're trying to get, And it was good because I was so intimidated, and they said you can meet with, you're going to fly out to New York and meet Martin Scorsese, and you're going to talk to him about the character. So I read the book a few times, and the screenplay by Terrence Winter, who wrote a lot of The Sopranos and created Boardwalk Empire, brilliant guy. And the only problem is I hadn't been on an audition in 6 years. So I would have been terrified to go audition for the first time in 6 years for anybody, let alone Martin Scorsese. And so I said, they're going to go meet with him so you can go talk about it. And I said, well, instead of just, everyone's probably going in there and begging him to play the part, I'm just going to show him what I would do, and then if that's what he wants, then I'll get the part, and if not, I got to meet my hero, and that's great. So I practiced for like 2 months, and I was terrified, and I went in there, and we were in a screening room. He has a screening room in his office in New York, and it was about 100 degrees in there, and it was Scorsese and Ellen Lewis, the casting director, and there was a ladder up to the roof, and I realized the AC was busted, and so I was started sweating because I was so nervous and it was so hot, and so I went in the bathroom.
Always a good impression.
Yeah, just nice to meet you. I'm sweating, and I went in the bathroom. I was like, get it together, you're gonna blow it. And then I went back in. I said, I know this is a bizarre request, but is there anywhere else we could possibly do this because it's so hot in here? And he immediately went, you're right, it's so hot in here. Let's get out of here. And we went in his office, and we auditioned, and we talked for like 2 hours, and I walked downtown from uptown in New York, and I was just like, well, that was the coolest experience of my life, and if that is all that comes of this, I'm the luckiest guy. I got to sit and talk to Martin Scorsese for 2 hours.
Oh, cool. And then how soon after that did you get a call to say, yeah, we'd like you to do that role?
2 months. Ooh. So I was
So they had to go through the rest
more.
of the list,
Yeah, they had to meet with all the better actors, and then, but I got to meet with Leonardo DiCaprio before that, because he produced the film, and he owned the rights to the book, and we were in Mexico promoting a film at the same time, and I sat with him, and I basically was like, I have to play this character, like there's no one else who can play this character, and as an actor, if you're lucky once in your life, you get to read something and go, I have to play this. And then if you actually do get to end up playing it, it's the greatest feeling in the entire world. I think Leo, being an actor, understood that passion for this, and he put in, he was really supportive. And he was the one who called me 2 months later. My phone rang, I was at dinner, and he's like, hey, I just talked to Scorsese, and you got the part. And I ran around screaming. I was in New Orleans, and I just was running around the streets. And then I was like, after 10 minutes of screaming, I was like, oh yeah, thanks.
And very clever of you to talk to the star while you're on a junket for another movie. It's
I was like, let's go. Can I buy you a drink? Well, I was just like, it was true. I'm sure you've had this. I've been really lucky because it's happened a few times, like with Cyrus or Moneyball or Superbad, where those are the things where I read and I go, I have to do this. And you're lucky if that happens once, and I've been lucky it's happened a couple times.
Now, this uncovers the seedy underbelly of capitalism, and as I mentioned to the audience before we started, and Martin doesn't hold anything back. He goes right for the jugular.
Yeah, at 71.
At 71, he will. On the set, was there as much fun shooting this movie as it seemed to be when you were, it's this bacchanal going on in the movie and around the movie?
Well, I think it was interesting because that's not my personal idea of fun, so, to me, we were actually just talking about this before we got here, but it was so fascinating because the thing about Donnie that I hated the most was that he didn't treat people nicely. He was like mean to people, and you know, the kid with the fishbowl, and throws a cigarette at him and makes him cry and all this stuff, and it's like, it's so ugly. So you were there, and I was so engaged with working with, with two of my heroes and doing the work, but on the drive home every night, I would feel so guilty for all the stuff I had done during the day. Seriously, because I would just be like, you know, have to speak people so badly, the way they treated women, the way they only cared about money. It just was it was like energetic and crazy, and you were wrapped up in it while you were there, and it was all like adrenaline for 6 months. But then when you go home, you'd have to kind of understand that, okay, I have to leave that there, and you know, and
So
feel guilt sometimes.
So with a character like that, that is repugnant on many levels, what then, when you were reading the script, drew you into wanting and needing to do that role?
Well, basically what I said to Leo and then Martin Scorsese when I met them was that I recognize who this person is in society, and I think there are a lot of what's wrong with society, and it'd be such a challenge and so interesting to try and bring that person to life, and also bring some things that are human about that kind of person. Because on paper, he's pretty evil, you know? The way he talks about his wife and his kids, and he cheats, and he does drugs, and he steals from people, and all of this stuff. But then there's an interesting thing where you have an opportunity to show that that's also a human being who's also making some really bad choices and in a really bad place in his life. Like, who knows what Donnie's like now?
Yeah.
You know,
If Donnie is still alive.
exactly, yeah, you know, but it's interesting. It's interesting snapshot of what these guys, you know, if you're given that opportunity, and do you take a bite of the apple and you know, Garden of Eden? It's like
The character is developed in people by the choices they make under stress and conditions like this. And these people made those decisions. Greed and avarice and hubris came into play.
and it's snowballed.
And it snowballs.
Yeah.
And they get addicted to the power of it, and they can't stop it. You know, contributed to the drug addiction as well.
Yeah.
When I took away from this is that it blew me back in the seat, and I left the theater, and I was like a little dizzy, and oh my God, what did I just witness? I feel like I either want to smoke a cigarette or take a shower,
Or smoke crack.
or smoke crack, do something crazy. But you know, after reflection and going away and talking with friends about it, it really became a cautionary tale to me. It was like, wow. I could see that. When the business is the business of making money, the business of creating business for your own personal gain, it is tempting, and all human beings are susceptible to temptation. Maybe not this specific temptation, but there is something that is tempting to every single person.
Well, the way
And so you can relate.
Well, the way sorry to interrupt you, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, but I think.
You know, I own this theater.
I know. I'm so sorry, Mr. Cranston.
If I want to pontificate,
I know. I'm sorry. I realized I got excited about something you were saying, and
I will shut your mic off like that.
Yeah. He can make me disappear like Oz in here. No, I'm sorry. Truly, what I meant to say was that I think there's a part of any human being that wants to be rich and wants the most and wants the best and their ego and everything. And Donnie's like 100, like hopefully in a normal person it's like 1.5% of who they are, and you suppress it with all these other great things about yourself. And with Donnie, he's 100% that, you know, and that was interesting.
The physical transformation that you did really was such a stark visual for me, with the teeth and the hair and the glasses, and I mean, you really made a presence. Was that scripted, or was that something that you brought to it?
Well, thanks. I mean, that was in the script, in Terrence Winter's script. Donnie had, because they talk about it in the voiceover, where he has these big veneers, like these blinding white phosphorescent teeth, and that was in there from the get-go. So we knew that. And then the hair, I just kind of, it was so great because, I mean, I can't say enough about working with Martin Scorsese himself, is that when you're working on one of his films, myself excluded, everyone is the best at what they do in the world. So, you collaborate on a level that I've never collaborated before, like Sandy Powell, our Academy Award winning costume designer. Like, we had months of fittings where we talked about Donnie, about character and why he dressed the way he did. His ridiculous sweater. Like, he tried to look waspy and upper crust, even though he was, a lower middle class guy selling children's furniture in Bayside, Queens. So it's about looking like you're the best, and like, even though it looks ridiculous on him because it's so not, it's a veneer, and then he's wearing literal veneers, and then we wanted his hair to be like blonder, and like, I always thought of it like a lit match, because he's just so like weird and chaotic, and you look at him and you immediately are like, oh, that guy has a lot of problems and he's in trouble, but he's also trying to look rich and waspy, and it's so absurd. These guys live so absurdly,
It is, but I found myself laughing. It is a comedy, and I'm enjoying the humor of it,
right.
The deprived humor about it. But one thing I wanted to ask you about, when you had such that you looked at Martin as such an idol of yours, did it present any hurdles on the job? Did you feel apprehensive? If you're going into a job and you're really on the same par and clicking with a director, it's one thing you could feel comfortable. Did you feel initially uncomfortable working with such an icon?
I think it's a great question, because there could not be a situation that I could have ever walked into in my life where I would be more intimidated than this one, So, but what I know about myself is I work better when I feel like everyone else there is better than I am. So I work better, like I said, I like to start at the bottom, or be on the bottom of the list, is I think it forces you to elevate and learn as you're going, and I work better when my desire is to impress the person, or the director. So, Bennett Miller and Brad Pitt in Moneyball with Philip Seymour Hoffman there, I was terrified, and I felt not confident, but that I had to earn my place at the table. And so, same with this, I felt in the grandest sense, like before I shot my first scene, I was a mess, I was in my trailer, like pacing and freaking out. And,
Mr. Hill, Hill,
well,
we need you.
Yeah, and it's true, but I think that does elevate you in some way, because you're forced to earn, at least I feel personally, like you need to earn your seat at that table, and it makes you do better work, I think. And actually, I have a good story real quick from the first day. I was so nervous, and I had been doing this Long Island accent, but I hadn't been doing this really raspy voice, and I had been thinking about it, but I didn't do it during the 2 months of rehearsals, and so I hadn't shown it to anyone, and so I was like, I really want to do this voice. I think it's going to be great for Donnie, but I hadn't shown like Scorsese or anyone, or done it ever for anybody, and so Spike Jonze was there the first day that I was shooting, and it was the first day of the shoot, and Spike was in Moneyball, so we were friendly, and I think he's a great director. He directed Her this year, and in a lot of great films, and I was like in the makeup room, and I was like, Spike, like, I haven't done this voice, can I show you, because he's a director, so I was like, can I show you this voice? And I'm like, haven't shown it to anyone, and he's like, yeah, and I did the voice, and he's like, oh, definitely do that. And so the first take, I just did it, and Scorsese never said anything. So I just kept doing it for the next 6 months. And like 4 months in, one take, it was when the diner scene where you first meet me, we dine, and he's like, is that your car, And like, that was like 4 months into shooting, and Scorsese's like, that was a little too raspy. But he had never mentioned that I was doing it the entire time, so I was like, I just did it, and then I figured he would tell me not to if he didn't like it, and we never spoke about it ever, so.
No one speaks faster than Martin Scorsese.
Yes, yeah, maybe he said it and I just missed it, it was so fast.
It was nothing. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes.
Welcome to Palm Springs.
Thank you.
I understand Variety honored you this morning, so congratulations.
Thanks.
I always like to know about dreams and the dreams, your personal dreams. And with Moneyball, you became an Oscar nominee, and you really went up a level. And now you're getting Oscar buzz again. So have you met your dreams? Have you surpassed your dreams? And if so, what are your new dreams?
That's a good question. Her question was mostly focused on dreams. And
I'm the owner. I'll repeat the
okay,
question.
yeah, sorry. I'll just wait in the car. Sorry, that's your job.
The question was about his dreams, and did he meet his dreams? And,
no, you said it so much better. You said it so much better. You really did say it so much better.
about the dreams, meeting his dreams.
What she was saying was that. Sorry. No, so she was. Okay, she was talking about dreams and my dreams and if.
Oh, so you forgot.
Yeah, I forgot.
That's why you can't do that part.
Yeah, I'm not good at this.
Did you meet your dreams? In Moneyball, he was nominated for an Oscar, and now I was just feted last night at the film festival, and now there's Oscar buzz for this. And have you met your dreams? Have you? That's the question. Dreams.
Dreams, like I originally said. I just want to point that out. That just seemed like a long explanation to say. He's the boss. He's the boss. No, I mean, yeah, of course I've surpassed any dream I ever had. You know, I would, Goodfellas is the movie that made me want to make movies in the first place. It's my all-time favorite film, and the Oscar stuff is amazing. It's cool, like when someone says that before you walk out somewhere or something. It sounds really great, and it's an honor, a complete honor. But what it really did was it allowed Martin Scorsese to know that I was a person that existed in the world and I was an actor. And to me, it's all about like what work you get to do and who you get to work with and be around. So for me, the Oscar stuff was so great for many reasons. I got to give my mom a wonderful night. I got to take her to the Oscars, and my sister to the Golden Globes, and we got to meet Bryan, but truly what it did was it allowed me an opportunity like this, so all that stuff it's so nice and great, but it is what it is. But with the true gift of all of it and your dreams are just to keep working with better people and people you admire,
You notice in the first thing you said about reading scripts and having to do a role, nowhere in there is the sentence, and this will get me noticed come award season, and this will get me this. It's not about that. It has to be from an organic place where, as an artist, you respond to the material. It resonates within you, the character, you can relate to it, and you have a drive and a desire to do that. Whatever happens beyond that is and always should be a tap on the shoulders, and you turn around and someone says, "Hey, we nominated you," and it's like, "Oh, great, that's fantastic." But truly successful artists of any realm, I think, pursue the art form and not the trappings that could be behind that. I'm always leery if someone says, "I'm a filmmaker, so I'm going to make a classic. I'm out to make a classic movie." Oh, you're in trouble, because you can't. Yeah. Only the fans of that movie can make a classic movie. The years go by, and you look back. Does it hold up? Does it resonate still? Then it's the people that will make that. And I think it's the same point of view with actors. Now, you mentioned something about opening up opportunities. In 21 Jump Street, and now 22 Jump Street. You got a lot of Jump Streets to go, by the way. You can go forever.
38
Jump Street. 114 Jump Street. But you wrote it.
Yes.
And produced it. So, in addition to acting, was this always a dream of yours, a pursuit to one day do that? Or did you discover it during this whole process?
No, I always just, I love movies. I do this because I'm gonna go home tonight and I'm gonna watch like 3 movies with my friends, you know? Like you guys are all here because you love movies. It's like the same thing, you know? So when I was starting out, I was on these sets and I was very lucky to have people that were very open about the process of movie making. You know, when I started out, I'm 30 now, I started when I was 18. And the first few movies I worked with David O. Russell was the first director I worked with, and then Judd Apatow and Greg Mottola and a bunch of people, Seth and Evan, these people who were not only really talented but incredibly open with like, here's what we're doing, here's how we did this, come to the table reading, let's all give notes on what it is, and then so I was just fascinated by that, and I just like would always write at the same time. I also, before Cyrus and Moneyball and stuff like that, I didn't think I'd ever get the opportunity to be in more dramatic type of movies, which also reflect my taste just as much as comedy does, So in my head, I was like, well, I should learn how to, I should have to write my own film because I don't know if I'll ever get to be cast in another kind of film, So I started, and then Superbad came out, and my agent called me and she said, would you want to turn 21 Jump Street, the 80s TV show, into a movie? And I was like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard in my entire life. And then I thought about it, and I said, okay, well, if I can make like a John Hughes movie meets Bad Boy. I was 23 at the time, so this was a lot more where my taste was.
Seasoned veteran.
Yeah, no, I was so young that it's like, okay, what kind of movies do you want to see? Well, I want to see John Hughes meets Bad Boys. Okay, that would be great. And then can I completely make fun of the fact that we're being unoriginal and recycling an idea? And can we make fun of ourselves and be aware of that? And they said, sure. And so that's what we did. And we really killed ourselves to make sure we were aware and making fun of ourselves for doing what we were doing at every turn. And then in the second one, the whole joke is like, basically, second missions are always worse and more expensive than first missions. And so, like, basically that sequels are bigger and worse than the first movie. So
when is that coming out?
That comes out in June. But the whole thing about that stuff is just self-awareness for when you're, the second one's about self-awareness of making a sequel, that it's ridiculous.
Okay, so it took you a couple years from 18 to 23 to become a writer-producer. How many years from 30 to whenever to be a director of a feature?
I don't know. I really do have a passion for directing, and right now I'm getting to work with all my heroes, so I want to keep, I have such a love for acting. I love it so much. And like we said, okay, so we were talking about if you read something, you have to play the part, right? No other actor can play this part. Now it's my goal to only act in things where I say I have to play this part. That would be my new dream. That would be to play the part, right? No other actor can play this part. Now it's my goal to only act in things where I say I have to play this part. That would be my new dream. That would be my new dream. So instead of working in between that, only doing the things where I go, I have to do this, no one else can do that. And as a director, I have to wait till there's a story where I say, I have to tell this story.
I think that's a good criteria. I really do. Otherwise, you'd be, especially for actors coming up, you get offered a job. Yes. What about this? Yes. And you have bills to pay, and at a certain point.
Inner terror of never working again.
I'm never going to work again.
Because when you're starting out, it's just all like, please, God, let me get a job,
And it's hard then to learn how to say no. Yes.
I would like to know what your
Did you, in your childhood, did you perform in schools and things like that? What's your theatrical background?
and are your parents in theater?
No, my parents aren't actors. My dad's an accountant, and my mom is a Renaissance woman. Has started many and completely different businesses throughout my life, and having her 3 kids. So she's a very inspiring. Both of them are very inspiring. But
Did you do high school? For you?
no, I didn't. I thought I really was not good at anything in high school. I was well liked, like I had a great time, and the idea of going to do a play sounded so ridiculous to me, so much so that when I went to they asked me to talk to my acting program at my high school in Los Angeles, where I grew up, and I'd never been in the building before, so I had to ask them where it was, because I'd never been inside. And when I was 18, I went to New School in New York, and I said, it's great school, and I started writing plays, and because I was interested in movies, and there wasn't a film school there, but they had playwriting. So I go, okay, I can write one-act plays, that'll be great. And when I would cast the plays, I really didn't know how to talk to the actors. I would just get really frustrated that they weren't doing it how I wanted, which is the worst thing a director can be. So a friend suggested, why don't you take an acting class in order to know what you would like to hear as an actor, which was great advice from a friend of mine. And so I took an acting class when I was 18 at New School in the acting program, and I was like, this is it. This is great.
That's a good
story.
Yes, sir.
I loved you in this role, and
Thanks.
I really loved the end too. It was terrific. How's your relationship with Don Lemon these days?
Don Lemon? I only met him one time, and I don't have any relationship with him. I wish him all the best.
Yes, ma'am.
You have had some success in both comedies and dramatic roles. Do you find as an actor, one that you gravitate towards more, you find more difficult?
Had success in both comedy and drama. What's his preference? And is anyone more difficult than the other?
No, I think it's really interesting. I feel really lucky that I get to go back and forth. And the idea, I guess, would be to mix the two really deeply. You know, I get asked that question quite a bit. And with comedies, for me, is I started out making funny movies, and I love making them. I do love them. And but that's what I would get like all the time, and I was so scared to stop working, or like I just was like, okay, I'll go do this and do this. And then I've gotten to play characters that end up being more complex and gotten to try all these wonderful new things. And now I'm trying to figure out what the ideal is. What I love about Scorsese and this film is that within the same, not only within the same film, but a lot of times within the same scene or the same minute, things can go from being heavy, dramatic, to funny, to dark, to all of these different types of things, which is what life is like, and in a lot of circumstances, not just one. You know, you never have a day where you go, I was funny from the moment I woke up until the moment I went to sleep. You know, it's like maybe there's some moments of certain that have certain pathos to them, you know, but that's what I aim for, is I ultimately would like to do things that feel like life. I watch documentaries constantly. The things that appeal to me the most are human feelings and why people do the things they do.
Yes.
Did I catch Jordan Belfort's name in the credits? And did
Here's-
you actually meet him?
The question is, did you catch Jordan Belfort's name in the credits? Did you actually meet him? Yes, he was in the movie. He was, at the very end of the movie, he was the guy announcing the fictitious Jordan Belfort. That's Jordan Belfort.
And improvised his own line, which was, I've met rock stars, gangsters, but this is the most badass person I've ever met in my life. He's talking about himself. Yeah. And Jordan was the biggest asset I've ever had on a film, because oh, hey Michelle. Hi. Oh, sorry, I thought you were my friend Michelle. Sorry, that's not you.
He does that occasionally. Occasionally he just goes on.
Where am I? No.
You were saying that Jordan Belfort was the biggest asshole on
No, Jordan was amazing, because, I mean, how rarely do you play a character where you could call them literally like in between takes and go, so when this was going down, what was this actually like? And he was, you know, he has his many flaws, he has a very flawed past, but he is the most open person I've ever met, and did not withhold any truth to his past, no matter how ugly it was, you know? And so I never had anything like that, where someone was willing to go so personal with who they were so often. And Leo and I would go to dinner with him and sit and ask him questions, and he's just, you know, the thing about him is that you don't really know, you know, he has reformed his life, and he seems very guilty about what he had done and feel guilty, but he brings you in, you know. He's a salesman. You sit there at dinner with him, and you're like, this is the most entertaining guy I've ever met in my life, you know? And you know, I'm around actors and stuff, and he's just one of those guys who tells a story and everyone is listening. We went to dinner one time and I saw the tennis player Serena Williams, who was so nice, and I walked by her and she was like, hey, and we were talking, and we were conversing, and then I just felt Jordan creep up over my shoulder and was like, hey, Jordan Belfort, they're making a movie about my life. Like, Jonah's playing this, and Leonardo DiCaprio's playing me. And he started going, and I could see her, because she's, you know, incredibly famous, talented person that people must do this kind of thing to her all the time. And I saw that she was like, okay, here it comes, like some guy's talking to me. And by 3 minutes in, she wouldn't have stopped the conversation.
Really?
She loved, like, he just talked and talked and talked, and eventually you're like, I can't stop listening to this guy.
Yeah, he has that hypnotic ability, and I've seen some YouTube things on him, and then Leo captured him just like
Beautifully.
that essence.
Leo, I think this is Leo's finest performance. I think he's such a gifted.
It looks you guys must have gotten hurt throughout the right? Were you gonna ask that? Because they're tumbling and running and grabbing and falling, and were there some bumps and bruises and any lacerations or anything like that?
Yes, Leo is the best actor of his generation. I think he's so brilliant. He is incredibly rough physically though, and he's bigger and stronger than I am. So in those scenes, I still have phantom pain when I think about it. And the scene when I ask him to go, when Donnie says, come smoke crack with me, and they go smoke crack, and Leo and Jordan goes, let's run like lions, bless you, run like lions and tigers and bears. And he smacks my back. We did it like 50 times. And it hurts so badly every time that literally when I think about it, I get like a pain. I like, it's a horrible feeling. And the lewd sequence, and when I'm choking and he's pounding my chest, he's like, he's so, it was great. Everyone got to be it was so real. It felt like it was happening, but a lot of the fighting and stuff like that.
You could have broken a rib.
I got punched in the face, for real. This is an interesting story about John Bernthal, who plays Brad, who's incredible. He's an incredible actor. He plays my enemy in the film, the drug dealer that I keep getting into fights with. Great actor named John Bernthal. So we're shooting that scene on the roof where I come out and I go, you're just a pill dealer. I'm the reason we have all this money. And he's supposed to hit me in the face. And we do it a few times, and Scorsese's like, doesn't look good. And then that's like the worst feeling for me in the entire world, because all I want to do is please this person, And we're sitting there, we're on this little couch in the room where we shot the scene where we're taping the money on it, which is right next door. And there's this little couch, and Martin Scorsese's here, and Leo's here, and John Bernthal's getting into character, hating me by pacing back and forth, like, and he's really buff and everything. And he's like, it doesn't look real. And he's like, and he turns to me and goes, kid, you want to try one where he hits you for real? And I've never...
Yes, Mr. Scorsese. Yes, I do. Yes.
I have never and will never say no to a request of his, but I was just quiet, because I was just hoping, like, maybe someone would jump in, or like a producer or something. So I don't say no, because I never would, so I just go quiet. And then I look to Leo's right here to go you want to help me out or something, And I look at Leo, and then Leo just goes like this. He looks away, doesn't do anything, is just quiet for a few more seconds, and then I go, yeah, okay, all right, let's do it. And then John's pacing faster and faster behind me.
Doing push-ups.
Yeah, it's like his muscles ripping through the air, and we go do it, and do the scene, and he hits me, and my fake teeth split and flew out of my mouth. And so I guess what had happened was afterwards that the whole take is the one they used, because I knew I was really going to get hit, and the energy felt like scary and dangerous up there. And he's like, "Kid, come watch this." And he's like, "That's your best take," So yeah, I was like, I'll send you the dental.
Wow. Good story. Yes, way in the back.
Thank you again for being here today and sharing
Oh, my pleasure. Do you have a question for Jonah?
About your process and the fact that you were doing so much drugs throughout the film, how did you, as an actor who doesn't do that supposedly,
Seriously.
it's very convincing. I'm still kind of curious about your process and how you were able to perform that so good.
Thanks. So yeah, the question was. The question was about how to portray being on drugs and what that process was like of acting, you know, like you're on drugs. Speaking of an injury that has to do with that, that connects to that, another thing is I got bronchitis for a month and a half horribly because the cocaine that we snorted was vitamin B, and I had snorted so much vitamin B that my lungs had gotten infected with bronchitis, and I was sick for a month and a half.
Wow.
And because all day for 6 months you're just snorting that powder, and it's good for you, it's vitamins, but that much matter in your lungs is like really bad for you. So anyway, we had Emma, our producer, who's amazing, who's Scorsese's producing partner, Emma Koskoff, Tillinger Koskoff, and she had arranged for a drug consultant, a drug expert, to meet with me a few times before we started shooting. So I sat with this woman in a room a few times and just was like, walk me through what smoking crack feels like, you know, walk me through all of this. And she walked me through everything. And what seems, Quaaludes are before my generation, so anyone my age hasn't, I'm 30, anyone my age hasn't tried one. And so I couldn't really, I just had to ask people, you know, tons and tons of people what it was like that were from a generation before me. And what seems to be
Oh, I'm looking at you.
yeah, Bryan.
Don't try to be so innocent. There were some takers out there.
And the unanimous comment from every person who had ever tried one was, they'd say, oh, this is what it felt like. And she told me lots of things like your finger, you lose your motor skills and your finger feels like it could weigh 10 pounds. And so I imagined like a tiny version of myself like puppeteering a bunch of dead weight during that Quaalude sequence. But every single person asked, they go, here's what it feels like, it goes like this, and then there's the stages and everything. And every single one of them, every single person I asked at some point in the conversation would go, God damn, they were fun. Like everyone would seem so upset that they were no longer in existence anymore. Like every single people you would not think seemed to be so upset that they were no longer a part
Really
of it.
well done. That really, I really thought you had loads of experience in the drug world. Any other questions? Yes.
Okay, the film was amazing. Loved
Thanks.
it. It was a lot of fun. Improvisation, especially like when Rob Reiner comes in the office and you guys had to, you know, act like $450,000 was legitimate. Is there improvisation going on all the time, or is that controlled?
Question was improvisation as opposed to scripted material, and how much was it in any specific scenes, namely when Rob Reiner came in talking about the budget.
Yes. Supposedly, from what Emma, Scorsese's producer, told me, that this was his most improvised film, Scorsese, so that was really exciting for me as an actor. As Bryan knows, just when you get the opportunity to, you know, Terrence Winter wrote it, who's actually one of my favorite writers, not just like lying and saying that he's actually one of my favorite writers. Wrote an amazing script, but as an actor, when you're playing a character, you really find out who the person is when you get to go outside of what you already know. So if you don't know something and someone throws something at you, or you throw something at someone else, then you're really getting to figure out how this person reacts in real time, you know? And I love it. I love that part of it so much. Like, Rob Reiner was so great to do that with, and John Barenthal and Leo, who is an amazing improviser, and you know, so many of those like moments, you know, came from just exploring different angles that weren't there, like where I'm talking about dropping my kids off in the woods, you know, and like, you know, and all that stuff is horrible. It was written as that, you know, I would take them to an institution or whatever, right? And so I thought it'd be interesting for Donnie's version of a joke would be that I'm going to let them run free in the woods, and then he goes, no, but seriously, I would take them to an institution, which is so messed up. He was saying, no, but seriously, I would do the right thing. I would, you know, yeah, which I found, you know, there's things, or the club with the butler saying, you know, do you you know who Pepe is, or I forgot the person, and I go, and he goes, you know the Lollipop Club, and I go, yeah, I get fucked up, I like to dance, you know, like there's just things that give things texture and build, you know, more to a character than is already there, and it was, all these actors are the greatest actors, it was so great to do with them.
Yes.
So you mentioned your favorite movie was Goodfellas, and one of my favorites is Carlito's Way. And during the film, Donnie's character reminded me of Sean Penn's character in that movie. Were there any characters you specifically studied for preparation after reading the script?
The favorite movie is Goodfellas, and this young lady's favorite movie is Carlito's Way, and the Sean Penn character in Carlito's Way reminded her of Donnie in this movie. And were there any prototypes or characters that you looked at?
That's a very astute observation. I love Carlito's Way. I love Sean Penn's performance in it. David Kleinfeld, the scumbag cokehead lawyer. Oh, sorry, scumbag cokehead lawyer. Is what I said. I love Sean Penn's performance in Carlito's Way, and yeah, you know, I didn't base it on him or anything, but I love that performance, and to me, it was more.
Who did you steal from then?
You, Brian. Obviously, everything you've done. It wasn't a character from a movie. To me, I like to really go for people I've witnessed in real life. That to me is, you know, there's actors whose work I, you know, flip out for and just love, and obviously probably like subliminally influenced by just having watched their movies 1,000 times. But to me, these were people. My parents are from Long Island, and I just gone around there and visited relatives and stuff, and not necessarily people like this exactly, but just that, you know, the attitude for me was like the core of it is like Peter Brand in Moneyball. He was the guy who played in Moneyball. He didn't feel he deserved to ever be in a conversation, so he never made eye contact with anybody. You know, he would always look away and didn't feel like he deserved to be there ever. And Donnie feels like entitled to be anywhere and that he owns any room that he's in. And that's what the vibe I would get from these people I would meet growing up, where I'm from California and I'd be a little more like reserved or anything. But these guys I would meet at summer camp or something, you know, on the East Coast would come up to me and be like, hey bro, how you doing? And like look right at you and like feel very entitled to your space and your, you know, and that's what Donnie is. He feels entitled, you know, even with Jordan in the first scene, he feels entitled to walk up to someone eating breakfast and ask how much money they make and be in their personal space. And that to me was more like just the attitude of what this guy was. You know?
So, did you eat the goldfish?
I tried to eat the goldfish. We tried to do, besides the drugs, everything be, you know, as authentic as possible. And I said, well, this guy ate a goldfish, so maybe it'll feel more real if I actually eat it. The reaction will be from everyone in the room will be better. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And PETA said, no way. And this was a carnival goldfish, okay? And there were 3 adult human beings handling the goldfish. The goldfish had 3 assistants.
All with earpieces?
Yeah.
The goldfish is on the move.
Right this way, Mr. Goldfish. All right. The goldfish needs Evian water, not this Dasani water. Hell. This goldfish will not work for that.
It's true. The goldfish was treated nicer than I was. And so they said you can put the goldfish in your mouth for 3 seconds at a time and then you have to spit it back into water. So Scorsese did this specialty shot, which is in the film, where it's like from above, this cool thing. And we put it in my mouth and we did about 4 or 5 takes. The first take, I'm not kidding, I put the goldfish in my mouth and it immediately goes to the bathroom in my mouth. And it was one of the more disgusting.
Number 1 or number 2?
I don't even want to speculate.
All the same.
I was just so grossed out, and I spit it in the water, and then it was gross.
Okay, well, we're gonna do that again. Okay, we're gonna do it again.
Yeah. It's like, I'm gonna tell the goldfish to go to the bathroom in your mouth. He was directed. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Or maybe the goldfish was so nervous to work with Scorsese that peeing all over himself.
Oh my God, I'm going into a cow! Scared. that's all.
I just wanted to say I greatly enjoyed the film, and
Thanks.
I have a question that I found, and I have to say this, Breaking Bad is my favorite show of all time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What the gentleman said was Breaking Bad is the best show of all time.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Jonah, I love your work, and I'm still feeling troubled with the disparity between the farcical nature of the film and the truly tragic human element of what it's addressing. I'm curious, you must have thought deeply about this, and what Scorsese's thoughts were on the decision to present this painful subject matter in such an almost SNL skit type presentation at times. It was great fun, but I also felt the disparity around this actually happens to people, and it ruins their lives. I was just curious what the decision process was to present it that way.
Well, his question was that he's having difficulty with the idea that this is presented the way it is, and is it making light of the way these guys acted, even though they really devastatingly hurt people.
I'm curious what your thought process was. Obviously, you must have thought about it in Scorsese.
Well, quite a bit. And I can't speak for Terrence Winter or Martin Scorsese and how they approached making their film, but as a part of making the film, what I can say personally is that I personally think that what these guys did and the way they were living was something I completely don't agree with. Specifically, the part about swindling people out of their money and ruining a lot of people's lives. And so, the way it's shown as these guys without a care in the world, having the best time ever while doing this. And I look at it as, what's wrong with America is that look what their punishment was for it. And their judicial punishment was incredibly, shockingly minimal. And the point, I can't say what Scorsese meant by the point of his film. He's the best director of all time. You can totally ask him. But what I took away from it is not just what's messed up is that these guys didn't have a lot of consequence, and a lot of lives were ruined. But if you behave this way and you still get off, do you still win? Are you still a good person? Are you still a hero at the end of the day? And I think it'd be a lot harder to live with yourself if you behave this way, even if you got off scot-free. You know, so that's my personal opinion about it.
Good point. I think we have time for a couple more, and then we'll wrap it up. Yes.
Well, just to that point, I mean, a lot of Scorsese's movies are about gangsters.
Yeah.
Really, they're not pleasant people either. So you see parallels between this movie and Goodfellas, perhaps?
Yeah, I do. He said so. A lot of some of Scorsese's films are about characters that are maybe unsavory, like gangsters and Goodfellas. And Leo and I would talk a lot during this film.